Arthur, once a tyrannical king who ruled the world with an iron fist, slaughtering enemies and nuking cities all for power, suddenly feels overwhelmed with guilt. Just as he starts to reflect on his atrocities, he drops dead from a heart attack. But before he can descend into the abyss, a mysterious voice offers him a second chance at life, warning him not to mess it up this time. Arthur opens his eyes to find himself in a completely new world. He's been reborn as a baby. His new parents, Reynold and Alice, are over the moon, speaking excitedly about their newborn son. Arthur, still processing his situation, can barely wrap his head around the fact that he's back to square one, trapped in a tiny baby body. He's helpless, can't speak, and involuntarily soils his diaper every few hours. It's a far cry from the almighty king he once was. But things get even weirder when he watches his father, Reynold, channel some kind of mystical energy into his fists and smash a boulder to pieces. Arthur's jaw drops. He's been through countless battles as a king, but this power is something he's never seen before. It's a huge feat, and Reynold is proud of himself. But his show-off moment goes wrong when a rock falls on his head. Alice rushes in, healing him with some sort of magic, warning Reynold to be more careful next time. Arthur is stunned again. Magic. That's a whole new level of weird. As the days pass, Arthur realizes that this world is much more dangerous than he thought. People carry weapons as a matter of survival, and Arthur knows he's going to need to learn how to fight if he ever wants to live freely again. But life as a baby isn't all bad. Arthur discovers the joys of peaceful sleep, something he never got to enjoy in his past life, where constant assassination attempts kept him on edge. Now, he can sleep without worrying about anyone trying to kill him in his sleep. Small victories, right? Months go by, and Arthur's limbs grow strong enough for him to move around on his own. He's not thrilled about being a baby, but he's starting to figure things out. One day, Arthur escapes his crib when Alice isn't looking and sneaks across the house, making it all the way to the library. There, he starts reading books about the world he's been born into. He learns that the continent he's on, Dickon, is divided into 3 kingdoms: a dwarf kingdom in vast cave cities, an elven kingdom in deep forests, and the human kingdom, where he now lives. Arthur also learns that the technology in this world is limited due to the existence of magic. People manipulate mana within their bodies to enhance their strength, agility, and defense, called augmentation, or they can project it out to control phenomena called conjuring. It's all very familiar to Arthur because, in his previous life, his power was similar to the concept of mana. He figures if he can focus hard enough, he might be able to develop this power for himself. Just as Arthur starts focusing his energy, trying to unlock his potential, Alice catches him. She's worried sick because he's not in his crib, but is relieved he didn't hurt himself. She doesn't seem to notice the magic forming inside him, but she does notice he pooped his diaper again, which is an ongoing issue. 2 years later, Alice is writing in her journal, thankful that Arthur is growing strong and healthy. But there's a problem. Arthur still hasn't smiled. She's starting to get concerned. Just then, she looks outside and sees Reynold giving Arthur sword lessons. Alice, of course, flips out. She's not about to let a 2-year-old swing a dangerous weapon around. Arthur, on the other hand, is learning that it's best to stay on Alice's good side to avoid getting into trouble. He's starting to understand that, while his life as a baby is limiting, he's much safer here than in his previous life as a tyrant. To take his mind off things, Alice decides to take Arthur into town for a little outing. Arthur's excited. It's his chance to gather more information about this strange world, how the weapons look, how magic works, and what kind of people live here. He even gets to see a mage casting fire magic in person. It's an exciting day, and Arthur absorbs everything he can. By the end of the day, though, Arthur is exhausted. His baby body just can't keep up with all the action, and Alice, seeing this, decides it's time for a nap. Arthur got the short end of the stick in life, dropped into the world like a player without a starter kit, forced to grow up in an orphanage, missing out on all the love a kid should get. So, being reborn into this new world with parents like Reynold and Alice is a nice change of pace. It's not perfect, but at least he's got a shot at real care this time. One evening, Arthur falls asleep on Alice's shoulder, and she carries him to his crib, talking about how proud she is of him. She's noticed how he sneaks out of bed to read books, how excited he gets when he sees the outside world, and she figures he must have inherited his adventurous spirit from Reynold. Alice wants Arthur to live peacefully, but she knows one day he'll probably want to explore the world on his own, and she'll support him no matter what. The next day, Arthur watches Reynold practice magic outside. Reynold shows off his ability to make rocks float, which seems impressive until Arthur realizes it's pretty basic. Reynold's strength lies in augmentation, using magic to enhance his own body, not conjuring like Arthur thought. Inspired by his father, Arthur tries to train, but just as he's about to climb down, Alice swoops in to tell him it's nap time. Arthur can't speak yet, so he starts whining. But Alice is firm, no reading today, just sleep. Little does she know, Arthur has mastered the art of pouting as a weapon. His baby cuteness wins again, and she lets him have his book. Alone, Arthur practices with his mana, which he's gotten pretty good at over the last couple of years. With just a little more focus, he figures he'll be able to cast his first spell. But things go way too well, and he accidentally blows up the house. Alice and Reynold, thankfully, were outside when it happened, but Reynold's back gets badly burned in the process. They rush inside to check on Arthur, who, to their surprise, is completely unharmed. Not only that, but Arthur is the source of the explosion. At barely 3 years old, this level of magic shouldn't be possible. Yet, here he is looking proud like a little wizard in training. Unfortunately, Arthur forgets that the house is crumbling around him. When 2 beams fall toward him, he tries to run, but his baby legs fail him. Just as he's about to be squashed, Reynold and Alice rush in to save him. This is the first time anyone has ever risked their life for Arthur, and the experience leaves him stunned. Seeing Alice crying out of relief, Arthur starts crying too. He's still not used to this whole being cared for thing. In his old life, Arthur would never be doing something like this. Back then, he was a king, cold, ruthless, and allergic to mercy. A guy once tried to assassinate him. The man got caught, and the royal council immediately went full evil overlord, sentencing not just the guy, but also tossing his wife and daughter into a torture camp so horrifying it would make a horror movie director blush. The man begged Arthur to spare them, swearing they were innocent. So Arthur, in what he considered a kind gesture, killed them quickly himself. That was just a regular Monday for him. Now, his Mondays involve sparring with his dad, Reynold. Today's lesson, gauntlets. But Arthur's not feeling it, he wants a sword. Reynold humors him, buffs up his blade with mana to keep things spicy. What he doesn't expect? Arthur doing the same and slicing Reynold's sword clean in half. That's when Reynold realizes, oh no, I'm out of my depth. He heads inside to talk to Alice. Reynold suggests sending Arthur somewhere better suited to his freakish talent. Alice shuts it down. The plan was simple. Reynold teaches him to fight. Alice teaches him magic. But Reynold points out the obvious: Arthur just split a magic sword as a child. They need help. Alice agrees he's gifted terrifying, even, but she doesn't want him far away. The argument heats up until Arthur says, "Why don't you just come with me?" Silence. They hadn't thought of that. Suddenly, it's the perfect plan. Next day, a carriage rolls up. Traveling with them is an adventuring group Arthur remembers from when he blew up the house, the Twin Horns. First is their cheerful leader, Adam. Then Angela, who skips greetings and bear hugs Arthur. Durden, the quiet tank, saves him with a chill high five. On top of the carriage is Jasmine, striking a cool warrior pose and saying nothing. Finally, there's Helen, the sharp-eyed archer. Everyone piles in. Alice asks if Arthur's excited. He says yes, but thinks, carriages? Seriously? I used to ride in flying cars. After a long ride, they stop to set up camp, and a pack of wolves tries to crash the party. Bad idea. The twin horns wipe them out in seconds. Arthur is hooked. It's the first real fight he's seen, and now all he wants is to be strong enough to join in. Dinner is simple, just grilled wolf meat. No seasoning, no sides. Classic adventure fare. While cooking, Alice notices a cut on Reynolds' arm and moves to heal it with magic until Jasmine stops her. Healers like Alice are rare, and casting healing spells in public is basically asking to get mugged. Once Alice finishes discreetly, everyone relaxes and digs into their wolf meat dinner. That night, Adam suggests a light spar against 4-year-old Arthur. Sounds insane, but Adam's heard the kid's freakishly strong and wants to see for himself. He powers up his spear. Arthur casually does the same with his sword. The match starts. Arthur vanishes with wind magic and reappears behind Adam, only to slip and wipe out mid-strike. Toddler legs meet momentum. The fight's short but intense. Arthur ends up airborne, and the others scramble to catch him before he kisses the dirt. They all yell at Adam, who swears he wasn't going full strength. Arthur's just that strong. Then Jasmine strolls over, impressed. She wants to learn the wind boost move. Arthur hesitates. It's a trick from his past life, but her death glare says she's not asking twice. Next morning, they're back on the road. During a break, Adam gives Arthur a crash course in spears. Helen tosses in some archery tips. Feeling generous, Arthur teaches Jasmine the wind trick. Mix wind magic and mana in your feet for instant speed. She gets it first try. Later in the carriage, Arthur quietly reads while Jasmine just stares at him. The next morning, she hands him a knife. A personal gift. Jasmine doesn't do friendly, so yeah, Arthur's left an impression. They hit the road again. Arthur's reading when bam, ambush. Bandits surround the caravan. Their leader gives a disgusting order. Capture the women and kids, we'll sell them. The twin horns and Reynolds leap into battle. They're skilled, but the bandits just keep coming. Mid-fight, the leader knocks Reynolds hard into a carriage. He's badly hurt. Alice rushes over to help, but Reynolds stops her. If she uses healing magic, she'll become a target. Instead, he tells Arthur to run and take Alice with him. Arthur refuses until Reynolds drops the real reason. Alice is pregnant. Everything shifts. Arthur understands. When Reynolds gives the signal, Arthur grabs Alice and uses wind magic to escape. Reynolds holds the line. Adam and Jasmine cut through enemies to clear a path, protecting them. Arthur isn't running from danger. He's running for someone for the first time ever. Eventually, it looks like they're safe. They're not. A rogue bandit up on a cliff casts a wind spell. Arthur sees it too late. No time to dodge. He shoves Alice aside and takes the full hit, blasting him off the cliff. At that height, it's fatal. But Arthur doesn't go down alone. He hurls Jasmine's knife, nailing the bandit and dragging him down too. Spells fly. People scream, but Arthur's already falling, and he's not afraid. He's not thinking about pain, just about why he jumped. Not for power, not for pride. For love. His only regret, as the ground rushes up. I just wish I had a little more time to be part of that family. After taking a fall that would have killed most people, Arthur somehow drags himself out of the river and into a dark cave. Lucky him, right? Nope, inside is a massive, terrifying monster. Great. Just what he needed. Arthur tries to sneak attack it, classic move, but the monster swats him mid-air like a fly and tells him to chill. It's not evil, just lonely and wants a friend. Yeah, the last time someone said that to me, I ended up in the back of a van, so, hard pass. But Arthur's in bad shape. He needs food or he's toast. The monster, who's surprisingly helpful, offers him some weird wall fruit. Arthur isn't keen on eating random cave snacks, but when he tries to get up, his body has other plans. Something snaps, and he starts crying like a kid who just lost his ice cream. The monster tells him to quit whining. He should be dead after that fall. so maybe say thanks instead. The monster, named Sylvia, says she'll answer Arthur's questions, but only if he eats the fruit. He gives in and surprise, they're actually delicious. After stuffing his face, Arthur finally asks the big question. Are my parents okay? Sylvia can't leave the cave, but she's got a magical live stream ability. She opens a screen and shows that Arthur's parents defeated the bandits and are totally fine. Cue happy tears. Since Arthur's stuck here for a bit, he warms up to Sylvia. Turns out she's not a bloodthirsty beast, just misunderstood. Over the next few days, he rests, eats, trains with a stick like a wannabe Jedi, and even starts working on his mana. Sylvia's shocked he already has a mana core. Most kids his age are still eating glue. She decides to teach him how to gather mana while casting spells. But before that, she asks the big question. What will you do with this power? Arthur blurts out something edgy about destroying anyone who threatens his family. Sylvia's not impressed. She flicks him on the forehead so hard he falls over, then gives him a little life lesson. Sure, I could crush your skull, or I could pat you gently. Which one sounds better? Arthur, wisely, picks the gentle option. She explains that if he lets hate control him, he'll end up trapped in a life of endless violence. So, take 2. What will he do with this power? Arthur reflects on the people he loves and decides he wants to protect them. Now that's an answer Sylvia likes. Meanwhile, someone or something is tracking Sylvia. Bad news. Back when Arthur lived in his old world, he was a king, but not the fun kind. He was basically a tool used by the senators to fight their wars. He hated it. Back in the present, Sylvia begins teaching Arthur her mana technique. He learns fast and powers up like a boss. Just as he runs over to thank her, Sylvia senses danger. She yeets him into a pile of rocks and tells him to stay hidden. Another monster shows up, one that looks just like Sylvia. She clearly knows him and is not thrilled to see him. He tells her to come with him. She declines. So, naturally, he starts throwing magic blasts like it's dodgeball. Arthur wants to help, but Sylvia's voice rings in his head, stay out of it. The other monster threatens her, come quietly or die. Sylvia's like, nah, I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory. Then plot twist, she reveals her true form, a dragon. She charges up a massive blast and fires it. The other monster blocks it, calling her reckless. With her body already in rough shape, using that much power might be the end of her. Sylvia knows she's probably going to die in this fight, but she's chill with it. She's lived a good life. She manages to slam the enemy into a wall, but he's not done yet. He gets back up and bombards her with energy blasts. Sylvia's taking heavy hits, but she's more worried about Arthur, who's hiding nearby. The fight is dangerously close to his location. The enemy fires one more big blast Sylvia could dodge, but it would hit Arthur, so she does the impossible, freezes time. While everything is frozen, she tells Arthur to come out. He's confused but obeys, curious about all this dragon business. Sylvia opens a portal to send him home, but because she's injured and rushed, the spell messes up and opens a portal to who knows where instead. She wanted to avoid sending Arthur into a random forest, but hey, he's tough. He'll survive. Before he goes, she asks Arthur one last time what he plans to do with his powers. Arthur answers without hesitation, to protect my family. That's all Sylvia needs to hear. As a farewell gift, she creates an egg and a feather, asking Arthur to wrap them together and keep them safe. Then she imprints her will onto his body, giving him full-sleeve tattoo-style marks on his arms. Arthur is super confused, but Sylvia says he'll understand someday, even if she won't be around to explain it. She admits something else. She could have sent him home a long time ago, but she kept him around because she enjoyed his company. Now her selfishness has put him in danger, and she's sorry. Arthur tells her he sees her as family, as a mom, even. She says he already has one, so he offers grandma instead. That melts her heart. They don't have much time left. She nudges him toward the portal. Arthur hesitates and tries to get her to come with him, but she can't. So, with a sad smile, she closes the portal and sends him away. Time resumes, and Sylvia takes the full blast. She collapses. The enemy approaches, thinking she might still be alive. He's right, she is. Using her last bit of strength, she unleashes a final attack that wipes him out completely. As Arthur travels through the portal, he hears Sylvia's final message. She reminds him to use his power wisely. Yes, the world is cruel, but that's why he needs to change it one small step at a time. She also reveals that she knows about his past life as a king. She didn't agree with how he ruled before, but she believes he can do better this time as long as he doesn't let hate control him. Arthur wakes up in the forest, heart heavy but determined. He promises to honor her wish and make the world a better place. But first he's got to get out of this forest. After getting zapped into an elven forest, all Arthur wants is to go home until a little girl's scream cuts through the trees. He sprints toward the sound and spots bandits shoving a young elf girl into a carriage, planning to sell her as a slave. Watching from above, Arthur flashes back to when his own family was attacked by slavers. Rage bubbles up, but he remembers Sylvia's advice, control your rage. So he stalks the bandits silently as they ride off. By nightfall, they set up camp. When Arthur hears one of them make a disgusting comment about elves, he decides they're not making it to morning. As night falls, he notices the bandits' horned wolves wearing magic collars. He hatches a plan. Arthur riles up the wolves with rocks. When a bandit comes to quiet them, Arthur takes him out, then ambushes another. But his body's tiring, and a third target screams. Now the camp's on high alert. The leader attacks, hoping to capture a mage for extra profit. He overpowers Arthur, but Arthur blasts his knee with fire and finishes him off. One bandit remains. Arthur doesn't leave the job half done. He frees the blindfolded girl Tesha and gently assures her she's safe. When she panics at the blood, he tells her the bandits had an accident. She buys it. Tesha begs Arthur not to leave her alone. He reluctantly agrees to escort her home. Before leaving, she convinces him to free the wolves. He's skeptical, but she removes the collars and the wolves peacefully return to the forest. The next morning, Arthur and Tesha begin their journey through the forest. After a while, they stop for a break and Arthur cooks up some questionable stew. It smells bad, tastes worse, and consists entirely of meat and salt. Gordon Ramsay would be appalled. Still, food is food. As they eat, Tesha asks Arthur why he's in the forest. He explains he got separated from his family. Curious, he asks her about life in the Elven Kingdom. Turns out, her parents are always busy, so she spends most of her time with her grandpa and a servant. They keep walking, but Tesha has no clue how far her village is, making the trip hard to plan. To make things worse, the wolves she freed. Yeah, they're still following them. Arthur is really starting to regret not dealing with that problem when he had the chance. That night, Arthur offers to stay outside the tent and keep watch in case the wolves get bold. But Tesha pokes her head out and begs him to come inside. He tries to act tough and says he's fine, but she's clearly too scared to sleep alone. Inside the tent, Arthur gives in. Tesha pretends she's not scared, but also refuses to let him move more than 5 inches away. Then out of nowhere, she hits him with a bizarre question. Is it true all humans are perverts who marry a bunch of wives? Arthur is stunned. Apparently, her grandpa told her that. Arthur explains that yes, some people are like that, but most humans are totally normal. Satisfied, Tesha nods and falls asleep instantly. The next day, they continue their journey. Tesha seems a lot happier now that she's been away from danger for a few days, but she's still hilariously bad at wilderness survival. She can't even cross a shallow creek without Arthur carrying her like a sack of potatoes. Then suddenly, Arthur clutches his chest in pain. He knows something's wrong. This isn't just a cold. Tesha panics and rushes off to find herbs. While Arthur leans against a tree trying not to pass out, The wolf they freed shows up. But instead of attacking, it drops a dead pig at Arthur's feet like a bizarre delivery service and walks off. Tesha returns and guesses the wolf is thanking them. Weird, but hey, they're not complaining. That night, they roast the pig and finally enjoy a proper meal. Tesha also finds some mushrooms, which unfortunately send Arthur on a long and painful trip to the bathroom. Once he's back and barely functional, Tesha starts rambling about her grandpa's old storybooks and how she's always dreamed of visiting the human and dwarven kingdoms. Arthur dozes off mid-story, but instead of being annoyed, she just pulls a blanket over him and whispers goodnight. The next morning, Arthur's still in pain, but he brushes it off. Tesha feels guilty she can't help. To shift the mood, she shyly asks if she can call him Artie. Arthur says sure, surprising her with how chill he is about it. He even teases her, pretending to be honored that Lady Tesha considers him a friend. She calls him a dork. Arthur laughs, reminding her she begged him to stay close every night. Tesha denies it, saying that was totally different. But joking aside, Arthur realizes something: Tesha might actually be his first real friend. Back in his old world, people feared him. But now, he's found someone who genuinely cares. Just then, Tesha calls him over. She's found something. Arthur expects another weird mushroom, but instead, they're standing in front of a massive tree with a glowing portal in the trunk. "This is the entrance to my village," she says. The second Arthur steps into the elf village, he's instantly surrounded by angry guards with swords at his neck. He looks to Tesha, hoping she'll back him up, but she just stares at him like he's a stranger. Arthur starts thinking she betrayed him, just like everyone else in his past life. Classic trust issues. Right when it looks like they're going to chop off his head, Tesha finally speaks up and tells them to stop. "Thanks for the timely help, Tess." One guard accuses Arthur of brainwashing her, but Tess defends him, saying he saved her life. Still, they don't believe her, until an old man steps in. This old man, Virion, Tesha's grandpa and the former elf king. Thankfully, he's got more brain cells than the others and believes Arthur. He even apologizes for the rough welcome. Arthur is relieved, until he finds out Tesha's actually a princess. Yup. She somehow forgot to mention that during their whole journey together. Then her royal parents show up. Her mom's nice, but her dad, not so much. He takes one look at Arthur and instantly wants him executed. Luckily, everyone's too scared of Grandpa Virion to follow through. After some arguing, Tesha demands Arthur be treated like a guest, and her dad finally caves because arguing with your daughter is scarier than war, apparently. Virion pulls Arthur aside and says he wants a word with him later. Arthur agrees, though he's kind of nervous because Virion feels insanely powerful. Tesha gives Arthur a tour, and he's blown away by the elf kingdom. But everyone stares at him like he's an alien. No one says anything rude though, because hey, he's royalty's guest now. Still, Arthur wonders why Tesha hesitated to help him earlier. Meanwhile, the weird pain in his chest is getting worse by the day. At the castle, Tesha tells the staff to treat Arthur with respect. Then she invites him to hang out, but Arthur says he should probably talk to her parents first, explain the whole saving their daughter from slavers thing. The royal family sits down for what basically becomes a tea party. The king, Alduin, introduces himself, as does his wife Muriel and Grandpa Virion. Arthur respectfully introduces himself as just a humble human kid from Sapin. When they ask what happened, Arthur tells the whole story minus the part with the dragon lady, Sylvia. When he mentions killing the slave traders, one guard flips out, thinking there's no way a kid could do that. Virion shuts him up with a death glare. Arthur then politely asks if they can help him get home. Alduin is furious that a human dares to ask for help, but he also knows Tesha will throw a fit if he refuses, so he agrees kind of. There's a magic gate that leads to Sapin, but it only opens every 7 years. The last time was 2 years ago, so Arthur would have to wait 5 whole years. That doesn't sit well with anyone. So, Alduin says he'll send soldiers to escort Arthur back instead, but tomorrow. Arthur thanks him, but the pain in his chest is getting seriously bad, and Virion definitely notices something's off. Later, Arthur is chilling in the bath, trying not to die. He steps out onto the balcony to get some air and spots Tesha with her parents above. It makes him think about his own parents, Reynold and Alice. He has no idea if they survived the bandit attack, but he's hopeful. Tesha notices him looking down and senses he's sad. After finishing her reunion, she goes to talk to him. She apologizes for how her dad treated him, but Arthur says he gets it. Decades of war between humans and elves, of course her dad doesn't trust a human with his daughter. Thinking about Tesha's reunion with her parents makes Arthur realize just how far he is from his own. He starts to worry they might not even be happy to see him again. After all, the whole reason they went on this trip was for his sake. What if they blame him for everything? What if they think it's his fault they got separated? He blames himself too for not being strong enough to protect them during the bandit attack. But before he can spiral further, Tesha grabs his face and literally shakes those thoughts out of his head. She doesn't know his parents personally, but if they're anything like hers, she's sure they'll be overjoyed to see him alive. No blame, just hugs. Suddenly, the corridor lights up with a swarm of glowing fireflies. Surrounded by their warm light, Arthur tries to recall his parents' faces, their smiles. Since his rebirth, they've never once shown him anything but love. So why was he doubting them now? Oh right, he's been letting his past life trauma mess with his head again. He even assumed Tesha betrayed him earlier. But looking at her now, all he sees is an innocent girl who'd never harm her friend. Just then, Arthur senses danger. Something's flying straight at Tesha. He reacts instantly, catches it mid-air and powers up to attack whoever dared target her. But surprise, the attacker is none other than Virion. Arthur's stunned. Why would Tesha's grandfather do something like this? Virion quickly clears things up. The projectile was just a firefly, harmless. He never meant to hurt Tesha. In fact, he just wanted to test if Arthur was as strong as he claimed. Turns out, Arthur passed the test with flying colors. Tesha rushes over and scolds her grandpa for playing around. But that's not why Virion's here. Earlier, he noticed something interesting about Arthur. So, he proposes a sparring match to see what the boy's really made of. He conjures a wooden sword for Arthur and lifts Tesha to safety before they begin. Arthur charges in, using mana to boost his speed, but Virion's way too fast. Even when Arthur thinks he's found an opening, Virion smashes the sword with his bare palm. A piece flies toward Tesha, but Arthur heroically throws the broken handle to deflect it. Now unarmed, Arthur keeps fighting using just his mana. But Virion's power is on another level. Still, Arthur doesn't back down. He gets knocked back but charges in again and lands a hit right on Virion's forehead. It barely does any damage, but Virion is seriously impressed that Arthur managed to get through his defense at all. Just as they're about to go another round, Tesha sneaks up and pinches her grandpa's butt to make him stop. Arthur says it's fine. Honestly, he feels honored that someone as strong as Virion wanted to duel him. Virion then drops a bombshell. He wants to take Arthur in as his disciple. Arthur is caught off guard. Was this a joke? Nope, Virion's dead serious. But Arthur hesitates. He hasn't even told his parents he's alive yet. No problem, Virion has a solution. He says there's a way Arthur can contact his parents right now. Before Arthur can ask how, the sharp pain in his chest hits him again. Virion seems to know what's going on. He tells Arthur that he's inherited a beast will, and if he doesn't become Virion's disciple, that beast will is going to kill him. After hearing such awful news, Arthur tries to sleep, but his mind won't shut off. The fear of dying and being away from his family gives him a horrible nightmare complete with a creepy sleep paralysis demon. Suddenly, he hears someone calling his name. He opens his eyes and sees Tesha sitting on top of him, clearly frustrated. She's been trying to wake him up, but he keeps mumbling about monsters in his sleep. Annoyed, she tells him to hurry because Virion is already waiting outside. Arthur gets up and starts changing. Tesha casually asks if he's really planning to stay here and become her grandpa's student. Arthur hasn't made up his mind. It all depends on whether Virion can help him contact his family. As long as he can let them know he's alive, he'll be at peace. Once he's dressed, he and Tesha head downstairs. But the moment they open the door, they hear Aldwin arguing with Virion. Aldwin can't stand the idea of Arthur, a human living in the Elf Kingdom. It goes against centuries of elven traditions. But Virion couldn't care less. He likes Arthur and has already decided to make him his student. End of story. Tesha tries to back Arthur up, but Aldwin doesn't want to hear it. She's clearly biased. Virion doesn't want to hear Aldwin either and tells the kids to hop into the carriage, they've got somewhere to be. On the long ride, Tesha ends up dozing off. Arthur asks Virion, now calling him Grandpa, how much longer it'll take. Virion laughs, saying if Arthur ends up staying, he'll be like family anyway. He's actually happy that Tesha finally has a friend. Being an only child and heir to the throne means most kids avoid her. And the ones who didn't, they broke her trust, so she has a hard time opening up. But with Arthur, she genuinely smiles. Arthur has trust issues too, but when he looks at Virion, he sees a kind, sincere grandpa. He feels like he can trust him. They finally arrive. Arthur wakes Tesha up, and they step out to meet this mysterious person. Virion bangs on a door, shouting for someone named Rianaya to come out. He leans in to listen and promptly gets smacked in the face when the door flies open. Rianaya turns out to be a powerful mage. Virion believes she can help Arthur contact his family. Once inside, Arthur is confused. It just looks like a regular house, and there's a random bucket of water on the table. Rianaya explains she's a seer. She can look into people's past and future. When she briefly reads Arthur's past, she finds strange gaps, parts she can't see. Arthur tells her he's not here for a history check. He just wants to let his family know he's okay. She pushes the bucket in front of him and tells him to think of his parents clearly. She works her magic, and suddenly Arthur starts seeing visions of his mom and dad. His mother, Alice, is making stew, but it's too much food for just the two of them. It's Arthur's favorite, and they miss him terribly. Reynold, his dad, blamed himself for Arthur's disappearance so badly he almost turned to drinking. But with Alice pregnant, he had to keep going. They moved to the city, got a house, and tried to carry on, but nothing could fill the hole Arthur left behind. Then they hear Arthur's voice. They can't see him and worry he's a ghost. Arthur quickly explains he's alive and living in the Elf Kingdom. Thanks to a friend, he's using a special kind of magic to talk to them. He wants to come home, but his body's not ready yet. He's not strong enough to survive. Still, he promises to return someday. He tells them not to blame themselves. It was his choice to make, and he'd do it again if it meant protecting them. Alice and Reynold are overwhelmed with joy. Saying goodbye again is hard, and Arthur cries. But he's glad he got to speak with them. Now, he's more determined than ever. He has to grow stronger, so he never makes them worry again. So, he asks Virion to officially make him his disciple. All that's left is getting Aldwin to agree to let Arthur stay. Aldwin is still stubborn. He can't stand humans. But Tesha hits him with the truth. Arthur saved her life. If he kicks Arthur out now, he'll just look like an ungrateful jerk. Aldwin's still worried that Arthur's presence in the Elf Kingdom could stir up drama, but Virion's already ahead of him. He tells Aldwin to just announce Arthur as his new disciple. Problem solved. No one would dare question Virion's decision. With that, Arthur officially gets the green light to live in the royal palace. After the meeting, Aldwin approaches Arthur and apologizes for being rude earlier. He admits he's not a big fan of humans, but Arthur saved his daughter, so that earns him a pass and even a spot in the family. Arthur is surprised by this sudden change of heart, but with Virion and Tesha backing him up, it starts to make sense. Arthur humbly accepts the welcome, but Tesha isn't done yet. If Arthur is truly part of the family, then he should be allowed to go outside and have fun with her. Aldwin agrees, and off they go. Tesha drags Arthur into town, showing him all the cool places. She's especially excited about a snack shop that sells out fast, so she pulls him along at lightning speed. While rushing, Arthur accidentally bumps into a snobby elf kid. The kid loses it, yelling at Arthur about dirty human germs. Arthur's tempted to throw hands, but Tesha tells him not to waste energy on jerks. That is, until the brat, Farith, insults Arthur and tells Tesha she should hang out with better people like him. Arthur decides to mess with him and intentionally butchers his name, calling him Phoebitch. Farith gets triggered and demands a duel to defend his family's honor. Arthur is baffled. Where he's from, duels mean death matches. But the nearby adults are just watching with amused expressions, so it's clearly not that serious. Tesha tries to stop the fight by reminding Farith that Arthur is Virian's disciple, and picking a fight with him is basically a suicide mission. But Farith is too full of himself to back down. He even says not fighting would dishonor Virian's name. Arthur shrugs and agrees. The duel begins. Farith charges in with a stick, full of confidence. That lasts about 2 seconds until Arthur decks him in the face. Down goes Farith, completely knocked out. His buddies rush over, and Tesha, who saw this outcome coming from a mile away, grabs Arthur's hand and drags him away. They've still got a full playdate to finish. The two spend the whole day hanging out, exploring the town, and shopping. Later, they sit on a balcony and chat. Tesha asks when Arthur's training with Virian starts. Arthur says it begins tomorrow, but he's clearly deep in thought. He remembers what Virian told him. The training will be hell. Imagine being dunked in boiling tar every day for years, alone, no family around. But Arthur's ready. He said yes without hesitation. No matter how painful it is, he's determined to get stronger and build the future he wants. Tesha promises to work hard too so she won't fall behind. But for now, she just wants to enjoy the rest of their day. And what better way to do that than grabbing more food? A few years had flown by since Arthur and Tesha started training under Grandpa Virian's grumpy but wise guidance. Over time, they'd become close like sparring partners who never missed a chance to one-up each other. Today was no different. After an intense match, Tesha flopped down, exhausted. Seizing the quiet moment, Virian shifted his attention to Liam, giving him a crash course in basic magic. Once your mana stabilizes, you can tap into elemental magic: water, wind, fire, earth. But this world has its quirks. Elves, like Tesha, excel at wind, are decent at water and earth, but hopeless with fire. Dwarves, masters of fire and earth, but clueless with wind. Humans, a mixed bag capable of all elements, but with wildly varying results. Tesha, ever the overachiever, threw Virian a look. If mana's such a big deal, why hasn't Arthur touched his core yet? She teased. Virian sighed, clearly waiting for this. Because if he tries now, his chest might explode. Okay, maybe he didn't say it exactly like that, but close. Arthur had a beast will inside him, which made his body and mana core clash. Until he rebooted his core, no mana for him. Tesha smirked. So, I'm technically stronger than you right now, huh? Arthur shot back. Well, yeah, you cheat with mana in every attack. Tesha had awakened her mana at 9, a prodigy even among elves. Arthur, still stuck in the no-mana zone, training with sheer grit. But that was about to change. Virian decided Arthur was finally ready to face his beast will. Arthur, of course, was all in. Let's do this. He sat down, Virian began the process, and things escalated fast. Arthur screamed like his soul was being ripped out, and a surge of energy blasted Virian and Tesha across the field. The good news? It worked. The bad news? Arthur passed out cold. They dragged him back to the castle. When he woke up, Virian was already waiting. You alive, kid? Yeah, I guess. Good. So, anything weird about that beast will? Arthur had planned to keep his dragon encounter secret, but after the show he'd put on, there was no point. "It's from a dragon." Virion nearly fell over. "You what?" He told Arthur to keep it quiet. Dragons weren't exactly low-key. If word got out, Arthur would be a walking target. And as if things weren't moving fast enough, Arthur learned he'd be heading home sooner than planned. A cultural exchange event was happening in 4 months, and the portals to Xyrus City would open early. Tesha was already getting the same news from her parents. That night, Arthur lay in bed, staring at the dragon egg. Sylvia had left him, already dreading saying goodbye to Tesha. But fate wasn't done with him yet. Crack. The egg hatched in his hands. Out popped the tiniest, cutest dragon he'd ever seen. For a moment, Arthur thought, maybe this will be easy. Then it bit him. Arthur yelped, dropping the little beast, but instead of bite marks, a glowing crest appeared on his arm, bonding him to the baby dragon. Now, he could sense its thoughts, which mostly screamed, "Feed me, puny human." Accepting his new role as Dragon Dad, Arthur named her Sylvie, after her mother. Satisfied, he went back to sleep, hoping that was the last surprise of the night. But a few hours later, surprise walked right through his bedroom door, literally. Tesha barged in, planning to talk about Arthur leaving in 4 months. But the moment she pulled back his blanket, all serious thoughts flew out the window. There, snuggled up next to Arthur, was baby Sylvie. Arthur woke up with a jolt, thinking the world was ending or something. But when he saw Tesha making heart eyes at Sylvie, he realized it was just her losing her mind over the baby dragon. He rolled over and went right back to sleep, leaving Tesha to squeal over Sylvie. Later that day, Arthur and Tesha headed to the training grounds for their lesson with Virion. Tesha, still obsessed, tried everything to win over Sylvie. But after nearly being smothered earlier, Sylvie kept her distance, perched safely on Arthur's head like a smug crown. When they found Virion, he nearly had a heart attack. "A D-dragon?" he stammered, staring at Sylvie like she was a ghost. While Tesha kept pestering Sylvie, Arthur explained she'd hatched after his beast will awakening. He was worried dragons weren't exactly low-key pets, but Virion waved it off. "Relax, kid. Dragons are myths now. Just tell people she's an exotic beast. No one'll question it." With that settled, Virion got back to his favorite pastime, turning training into torture. Time to train both your beast and Manticore. Best method? Real combat. He transformed on the spot, flexing his Shadow Panther form, and told Arthur his training started now. Arthur braced himself, but Virion vanished after 1 step. Arthur couldn't see, hear, or sense him. After a hopeless attempt, he gave up. Virion popped up behind him, smug as ever. Turns out, Virion's beast will let him erase all sound and movement by controlling wind cool, but super mana hungry. Honestly, he just wanted to show off. He finally summoned a sword and let Arthur train for real. Days later, Arthur was crushing his beast while training, no more chest pain, and his body kept up with Virion's tricks. Between all the training, he and Tesha still squeezed in their not-a-date hangouts. One day, during one of these hangouts, Arthur bumped into a fancy elf Faerith. Problem was, Arthur didn't remember him. Faerith, ever the drama king, was offended and demanded a rematch. It ended fast. Faerith hit the ground in seconds, his friends speechless. Tesha reminded Arthur, "That's the kid who challenged you a few years ago." "Oh, right," Arthur laughed, helping him up. Faerith finally gave up on picking fights. Arthur asked if they were joining the cultural exchange event. Faerith bragged about being specially chosen, but yeah, all noble brats got in. Nothing special. Arthur then asked Tesha if she'd be going, but Faerith butted in, mocking that the royal family wouldn't risk their helpless princess getting kidnapped again. Big mistake. Tesha socked him right in the face, sending him flying. Arthur, knowing this would get messy, grabbed her hand and dragged her away before a crowd gathered. Once they were clear, Arthur scolded her. You can't just punch people. You're a princess. Tesha rolled her eyes. Faerith was still breathing, wasn't he? But Arthur sounded just like her dad, which ticked her off. She called him an old man and stormed off in tears. Feeling guilty that night, Arthur pulled a classic Arthur move, snuck up to her window and invited her to sneak out and explore the forest. Anything to cheer up the moody princess. Tesha agreed, but halfway through the woods, she asked, "Is this really okay?" Arthur grinned. "If kidnappers show up, we'll just beat them up. Worth it for the stars, right?" Tesha, wobbling with sleep, insisted she was fine. Arthur told her to just sleep, but she stubbornly refused. This might be their last night together. Too bad her brain didn't get the memo. She started seeing monsters in the trees. Arthur laughed, teasing her for still being scared of ghosts. "I'm not scared. I'm cold," she snapped, aggressively feeding the fire. Trying to stay awake, she asked about the human kingdom. Arthur admitted he didn't know much. He'd never even been there. "I wish you could just stay here forever," Tesha whispered. Arthur wished that too, but he couldn't give up seeing his family. Before he could say more, she was already asleep. Smiling, Arthur let her be and called it a night. When it was time to leave, Virion gifted Arthur a special compass to find his way back. Arthur thanked him but noticed Tesha was missing. She couldn't bear to watch him go. As the portal opened, Arthur was about to step through when he heard his name. Tesha ran toward him, tripped, and fell. Arthur rushed over, helping her up as she tearfully rambled that he'd better take care of himself or she'd never forgive him. Arthur hugged her tightly. "I'm gonna miss you too, Tesha. A lot." Then, he stepped through the portal.